Today we're taking a closer look at a major diplomatic agreement between the United States and Iran, a deal that could influence regional stability, international trade, energy markets, and global politics for years to come. After months of rising tensions and military confrontation, officials from both countries have announced a framework agreement designed to stop hostilities and create a pathway toward a more permanent settlement. While many details still need to be negotiated, the agreement is already being described as one of the most significant diplomatic developments in the Middle East in recent years. So what exactly is in this agreement, why does it matter, and what challenges remain ahead? Let's break it down. To understand the importance of this development, we first need to look at the background. Relations between the United States and Iran have been strained for decades. Political disagreements, economic sanctions, regional conflicts, and concerns over Iran's nuclear activities have repeatedly brought the two countries into confrontation. Earlier this year, tensions escalated dramatically. Military actions, threats, and growing instability raised fears that the situation could develop into a wider regional conflict involving multiple countries. As the conflict intensified, global leaders became increasingly concerned about the potential consequences. Energy markets reacted nervously, investors worried about disruptions to international trade, and many feared that a prolonged conflict could destabilize the entire region. Against this backdrop, diplomatic efforts accelerated behind the scenes. The result is a new agreement intended to reduce tensions and establish a framework for future negotiations. One of the most important parts of the deal is the commitment by both sides to stop military operations and avoid actions that could reignite conflict. Supporters of the agreement argue that reducing the risk of direct confrontation is essential for regional stability. Even a small military incident in such a sensitive region could have consequences far beyond the Middle East. Another key element concerns sovereignty and non-interference. According to the framework, both countries have agreed to respect each other's territorial integrity and avoid interfering in internal political affairs. This provision is particularly significant because accusations of foreign interference have long been a source of tension between the two nations. The agreement also establishes a timeline for further negotiations. Diplomats are expected to continue discussions over the coming weeks in an effort to transform the current framework into a more comprehensive and permanent arrangement. Negotiators will need to address some of the most difficult issues in the relationship, including security concerns, sanctions, economic cooperation, and nuclear activities. Perhaps the most closely watched section of the agreement involves Iran's nuclear program. For years, Western governments have expressed concern that Iran could eventually develop nuclear weapons capabilities. Iran has consistently maintained that its nuclear activities are intended for peaceful purposes. Under the new framework, Iran has agreed not to pursue nuclear weapons. The agreement also outlines plans for future discussions regarding enriched uranium and international monitoring procedures. Experts say this aspect of the deal will likely determine whether the broader agreement succeeds or fails. If both sides can build trust on the nuclear issue, further progress may become possible. If disagreements emerge, however, the entire process could face serious challenges. Another major component of the agreement involves economic measures. For years, sanctions have placed significant pressure on Iran's economy. Restrictions affecting trade, banking, investment, and energy exports have had a substantial impact on economic growth. The new framework opens the possibility of gradually easing some of these restrictions if Iran fulfills its commitments. Supporters argue that economic incentives can encourage long-term cooperation. Critics, however, warn that sanctions relief should only occur if there is clear evidence of compliance. As a result, the pace and scale of future economic changes will likely become one of the most debated aspects of the negotiations. The agreement also addresses international shipping and trade. One of the world's most important maritime routes passes through the Strait of Hormuz. A significant percentage of global oil exports travels through this narrow waterway. Whenever tensions rise in the region, concerns immediately emerge about potential disruptions to global energy supplies. Under the agreement, efforts will be made to ensure safe passage for commercial shipping. This could help reduce uncertainty in energy markets and support greater economic stability worldwide. Whenever tensions rise in the region, concerns immediately emerge about potential disruptions to global energy supplies. Under the agreement, efforts will be made to ensure safe passage for commercial shipping. This could help reduce uncertainty in energy markets and support greater economic stability worldwide. Energy analysts note that developments in the Strait of Hormuz often influence fuel prices around the globe. For that reason, businesses, governments, and investors are closely monitoring the implementation of this part of the deal. Another interesting feature is the discussion of future reconstruction and economic development projects. Regional partners may participate in investments designed to support infrastructure, industry, energy production, and broader economic growth. Supporters believe such initiatives could create incentives for stability and cooperation. However, many details remain unclear, including funding mechanisms, project oversight, and the conditions required for implementation. As with many international agreements, success will ultimately depend not only on promises but also on execution. The coming months will be critical. Both sides must demonstrate that they are willing and able to fulfill their commitments. International observers will be watching carefully for signs of progress or setbacks. Political leaders supporting the agreement argue that diplomacy offers the best chance to avoid future conflict. Meanwhile, critics remain skeptical and question whether deep-rooted disagreements can truly be resolved through negotiations alone. Regardless of where one stands politically, there is little doubt that this agreement represents an important moment. The outcome could influence regional security, international diplomacy, energy markets, and economic conditions far beyond the Middle East. For now, the agreement provides an opportunity, a chance to replace confrontation with dialogue and uncertainty with negotiation. Whether that opportunity leads to lasting peace remains one of the biggest questions in international affairs today. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to follow the podcast for more in-depth coverage of global events, international politics, and breaking developments from around the world. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and thanks for listening.